So, hello everybody and welcome to this Gallery Teachers Masterclass. My name is Steve Tulk and I'm a teacher trainer. I've worked most of the jobs in the ELT. I'm DOS, Assistant Director of Studies, Senior Teacher, and I'm here today to talk to you about um, empowering your students to be more successful when they're writing in English. So I'm going to share my screen with you. Let's pull that up now. Okay, so as you can see, our presentation is called Getting Writing Right. Let's have a look. First of all, I want to start with talking about what do our students think about writing? And here I'm going to pull up some things that I've heard fairly frequently in the English language classroom. Um, I don't write very much in my own language. I'm not very good at it. It's difficult. I prefer speaking. I get lost halfway. Lots of things that our students say to us about writing in class. Um, but generally, what I find is that we have this lack of purpose, a lack of direction, a lack of confidence. And these things, when they're combined, give us this recipe for disaster. I've put a little caveat there to say it's not actual disaster because it isn't, is it? It's not a landslide, an earthquake, or a tsunami. It's not an actual disaster, but it's definitely unsuccessful writing, which can be fairly disastrous in its own way, can't it? So our students don't really like writing in class that much, generally. I mean, I'm generalizing, obviously, but these three things tend to be the problem: a lack of purpose, a lack of direction, and a lack of confidence. So what about we make them into writing with purpose, writing with direction, writing with confidence? So we change it from a lack of to writing with. How much better would our students be? So purpose, direction, confidence, PDC. This is what we're going to be talking about today. Purpose, direction, and confidence with our students writing. Okay, so let's start with the P. If you remember, P was writing with purpose. And let's have a look at lack of purpose. Look, here are some things that I've asked my students to write. All kinds of stuff. And I'm sure you've asked your students to write the same things. Ghost stories, deleted scenes from movies. We all love a nice haiku or a limerick, don't we? True crime articles, all kinds of things. Fun, fun, fun. Really enjoyable to write. The problem is here, look, we may see these as fun activities, but our students, they may see these more as fun but pointless. What am I doing? Why am I writing this? What's the point? Well, what is the point? Often with this kind of thing, the purpose is what? To practice a language point. So we're trying to get our students to use the target language of the day, maybe whether that's vocab or grammar. We're trying to get them to practice that. That's not always clear. So if the purpose of what we're asking them to write is um, a grammar or vocab point, if it's a language point, then we need to be very clear and point that out. However, what I find is more successful writing with purpose is giving students things to write, tasks of things that they would write in their everyday lives. For example, almost everyone writes these kind of things, don't they? They write emails, messages, online posts, online reviews, that kind of thing. If they're applying for jobs, covering letters and CVs. And some of them may also write things like academic texts or exam texts, depending on their context. But when we look at this list, we can see that these have far more real life value than a haiku or a ghost story. And again, a little caveat to this: just because your students write something in their own language, it doesn't mean that they'll need to do the same thing in English. And my point here would be that brilliant example, that thing that here in London, for example, we ask students to do from time to time, Write a postcard to your mom and dad and tell them about what you've done in London so far. Well, that's cool. Good practice of present perfect, good practice of past simple, for example. Maybe a bit of I'm looking forward to. That's all great. But actually, why would a Spanish student be writing to their parents in English? It makes no sense. So there are some things that students, even though it's something they might write in their first language, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to write it in English. I spent most of my adult life in France, but my shopping lists were always in English, right? I never really wrote them in French. So just make sure that when you're writing something with purpose, that it is really a real life task. When we come to real life tasks, we find this is true, that they're engaging, they're interesting, relatable, and useful. So we have these four things. Um, but, and there's always a but, isn't there? Engaging, interesting, relatable, and useful, that varies from student to student and from group to group. So just because this group that you're teaching, or the group, so sorry, just because the group you taught last week found this task engaging, interesting, relatable, and useful, doesn't necessarily mean that the group you're teaching this week will find the same task engaging, interesting, relatable, and useful. Um, we teach students, don't we? We teach individuals within a group. We don't teach anonymous faces. Think about your students and make sure that the real life purpose tasks are engaging, interesting, relatable, and useful to that group. If they've already told you that they don't like the cinema, no point getting them to write movie reviews. Get them to write a review of a TV show instead, for example. Okay. So engaging, interesting, relatable, useful, keep this in mind at all times. And when we do that, students can see why they're doing the task, how it will benefit them, and when they will use it. Okay. So when students feel that there's a purpose to what they're writing, they're more engaged and they're more interested and they're more likely to succeed because they can see this is useful to me. I'm going to use it. So this is really important. So here's good old Samuel Beckett saying, what are we doing here? That's the question. And our students ask this, don't they? You know, as a school director, I've heard it in the school corridors, I don't know why we had to do that in class today. So make sure that students know the reason for what you're asking them to do. Writing with purpose. Give them purpose. Here, these are some examples from a typical course book. And you'll see that even course book publishers these days are giving us real life activities. Elementary, write an email asking for info. Intermediate, write an online review. Advanced, write a cover letter. Things that we would expect students to be able to do in real life at that level. So writing with purpose, we've kind of covered that now. So let's think about writing with direction. Okay, so in our PDC, direction is the D. Let's have a look. So when there's a lack of direction, it's super important that our students know where they're heading when we give them a writing task. What should it contain? What should it look like? And more importantly, what's expected of me? What do I have to do? How about this? The journey is always easier when we know where we're heading. True, right? It's very rare that we get in the car and just drive. Um, we wouldn't agree to meet our friend at a restaurant and get in the car and not know where to go. We know where it is, we know what it looks like, we know how to get there. And this is the same with writing tasks. We can't say to our students, write. We have to help them along the way. So, what kind of writing lesson is this? Have a think, have a look. What kind of writing lesson do we have here on the screen? 4 steps to the writing lesson. If you have an idea, pop it in the chat box. But if not, have a think. What kind of writing lesson is this? 4 steps. Okay, so this is what we call product writing. And product writing is a really fab way to write. If you don't know what product writing is, you'll find lots of resources on the Gallery Teachers website, and you'll also find that you can Google product writing and see more about it. So I'm going to give you a brief overview of it. Product writing is all based around, as you can see, step one, a model text. And what we do is we look at that text and then we reproduce it within the context of the task. I love product writing simply because it's something I use every day. If I start a new job and my boss says to me, write a report at the end of the month, the first thing I'm going to do is look at what somebody else has written as their monthly report and use that as the basis for mine. If we apply for a new job, we're going to look at job application letters online that we like, and we're going to copy those, aren't we? We're going to use that as the basis and change the information. And especially when we're writing in second languages, I know that when I first moved to France and I had to start writing letters in French, I would definitely be pulling out model texts and using those as the basis. So I love product writing because not only does it make our students have more direction in their writing, but we're giving them a real skill for life with this. This is something that they can really use. So let's have a look at it in practice and how it works. And this is coming from the same textbook again. And the first part of it is this pre-task schemata activation. Okay, and you can see here we're activating our student schemata. We're getting them thinking about the topic and about the subject. We're getting them talking about it. And here, this is an email of complaint, and we're listing the common causes of complaint for people who travel. Get students thinking about it, activate this knowledge in their brain. They're working in pairs and they're talking to each other about this. So this is really important. Start the conversation about the topic. Once we've done that, we move on to the model text. And here it is. Look on the right-hand side of the screen. And underneath, you can see there part C, which is some comprehension questions, fairly straightforward. But look, this might sound logical. This might sound obvious, really. But if we're going to give our students a model text that we're expecting them to reproduce with a changed context, we have to make sure that they understand it. So whenever you introduce a model text to your students, the first step has to be comprehension. Do they understand that model text? Once we've done those comprehension questions, and here you can see they're true or false questions, we move on to the next stage. And the next stage here, look, is analyze features of the genre. So we do some genre analysis. This is an email of complaint. So we're looking at the model text and we're working out which paragraph does which job. Because as you know, in an email of complaint, it's a very fixed order that it comes in. So here we're analyzing the genre. What form does an email of complaint take? So we've done comprehension, genre analysis. Now we're moving on to some controlled practice, to look at the language within that email of complaint. And here we're looking at adverbs. That's the target language that we want our students to use within this email. This is an intermediate task. So we look at comprehension, we analyze the genre, and we analyze and do some input for language that's in that model and language that we want our students to use. Okay, so once we've done that, we then set about organizing our ideas. Prep, choose one of these topics to write about, and plan, write some detailed notes. So choose a topic, make lots of notes, get ready to start writing, and then guess what happens? We write. So here, we've given the students a fairly wide range of word count here, 150 to 250. Word count range is important because students feel comfortable when they know what's expected of them. And here it says, very clearly, and this is very important with product writing. Use Asaf's email, the model text, and exercise D, the paragraph ordering, to help you. Use adverbs to explain your problem. So not just simply write, but actually use that example and copy it, complete it, change it so that it matches your context, but use it as a model. Okay, so what we know about product approach is it gives the students direction. They know exactly where they're heading. They've looked at the model, so they know what it's going to look like. They've analyzed the genre, they've analyzed the language, they've prepared their thoughts. They have real direction to their writing. So not only does this give the students direction, but it also gives the students confidence, a massive boost. What more could we ask for? And here's Mary Berry. If you're in the UK, you'll know Mary Berry. She is famous for being a baker. She bakes amazing cakes. And I can't disagree. Look, if you follow a good recipe, you will improve every time. And a product writing lesson is just like a recipe. Okay, so writing with purpose, direction, confidence, PDC. We're moving on, aren't we? So we've looked at purpose and we've looked at direction. And now the biggest part of this session, which is about writing with confidence. Okay, writing with confidence. This is our hardest one to achieve, but it's the biggest impact we can have. Students have a lack of confidence for many reasons. Look, um, they their previous experience with learning to write in English, maybe it didn't go well. They're worried that we're going to judge them. They don't want to look silly. Some students just don't write very much in their own language, and some students have never written in English before. And then this fear that writing is a permanent record of their language skill. So, not like a conversation which is easily forgotten, writing is permanent. Many reasons why our students may lack confidence in writing. But this is so true, isn't it? Look, as ELT teachers, we teach far more than grammar and vocab, don't we? We teach more than sentence structure and connected speech. We teach our students, or we build our students' confidence. And we all know that a confident student is more likely to be a successful student. Okay, so let's look writing with confidence. Let's give our students some confidence. Let's empower them to be more successful as writers. We can't change the past, but the present is ours to manage. Our students have all had different educational experiences, which are very different often to their experience in an ELT classroom. The ELT classroom is these two things, right? It's a safe space and it's a place free of judgment. So, a safe space, not just a space to be who you are and to be yourself, but also a space to where you feel comfortable enough and confident enough to challenge yourself, to be prepared to make mistakes, to take a chance on a sentence. You know, this is really important that we create that space. And it's a space free of judgment where they know that they're not going to be judged if they make an error or say something silly. We're not here to judge. This is not the job of the ELT teacher, is it? Our role is to support, encourage, motivate, mentor, give feedback. Lots of lovely things, all very positive. We're here to ensure that our students love the language and improve within the language, and they're more successful users of the language. We're not here to kill their motivation and make them scared of coming to class. So all of these things are super important. I would say think about the feedback that you give, think about how much you give, and think about how and when you give it. So the feedback that you give, thinking about that, even if a student has given you a terrible piece of writing, find something positive. Maybe they've used some nice adjectives in there. Maybe the content or the ideas are good, but the English isn't so good. But think about something positive that you can say. It can't always be negative feedback. And when we think about how much we give, We've all received it, haven't we, from our teachers at school, a piece of paper covered in red pen. We hate it, they hate it, it's terrible. Um, Students, when you give them feedback, they can't attack everything all at once. So think about how much feedback you're giving. I would say on a piece of writing, you can give them feedback on 1, 2, or maybe 3 items maximum. Think about, for example, look at how well they've done with the target language, because obviously you want to give them feedback on the target language for this task. Look at anything that is a recurring mistake, that's a mistake that they shouldn't be making at their level, and maybe give them feedback on that. Look for anything that might be becoming fossilized, because we don't want our students' mistakes to be mistakes for life, do we? If a student has made a mistake in a sentence that's above their level, rather than point out that it's not right, maybe we want to point out, well done for attempting something difficult. You know, we can give positive feedback when they make mistakes as well, for trying. All right. And then think about how and when you give feedback. We're thinking about feedback with our students' confidence in mind. If a student's a bit timid and you know that they were worried about this piece of writing, maybe feedback in front of the whole class isn't great. Let's think about how and when we give our feedback too. Okay, here she is, Judge Judy. Only Judy can judge us. We are not here to judge our students. All right. We all know this, don't we? Writing is difficult. Most of us in the room will have learned a language ourselves, and we know that writing in a second language is not easy. We've seen our students struggle with it. It's not easy. Can we make it less difficult? I have 2 tips for making it less difficult, and we're going to look at both of them. By making it less difficult, we make them more confident. First of all, make sure our writing tasks are level appropriate. And secondly, scaffold our writing tasks. Let's look at both of those. All right, but before we do, just this point on demand high. Demand high, if you have heard of it, fab. If you haven't, maybe Google it. But demand high is where we push our students a little bit further. When they do something well, we push them a little bit further. Demand high is fab. I'm not sure that the writing lesson is always the place for demand high. Keep it within our students' confidence levels. All right. Ensure our writing tasks are level appropriate. So I'm just going to pop up here some stuff from the CEFR about things that we can expect students to do when it comes to writing at different levels of the CEFR. So I'm going to leave those up there for a moment for you to read them. So A1, simple phrases and sentences. A2, sentences with simple connectors, and so on and so on. The reason I'm putting this up here is because, well, look, if you're using a course book and it's a modern course book, this is built in. It's when we go off-piste and we create our own materials that we need to be really careful. And we need to be careful that we are not giving our students writing tasks that are beyond their level. So I would always say, when you are writing your own writing tasks for your students, pull out the CFR and check, is this appropriate for my students? Am I expecting too much? Am I expecting too little? Is it too easy for them? What should they be able to do at this stage of their learning? The CFR is your friend, and level appropriate writing tasks are going to build your students' confidence, because we're not making them do things that are too difficult for them. And I've seen it. I've seen really well-meaning teachers, good intentions, giving students writing tasks that are just beyond their ability. So be careful, but enjoy writing your own materials. When it comes to scaffolding writing tasks, look, think about scaffolding on a building. With scaffolding, we can reach things that would otherwise be unattainable. If you ask a builder, they'll tell you that this is true. These look like very happy builders, don't they? But it's true. This is why we have scaffolding, so we can get up there and reach things that we couldn't reach otherwise. And with writing tasks, it's the same. Here's my example. The example is write an online restaurant review. Simple task. We've all done this in class. Without scaffolding, it looks like that. Okay, class, I would like you to write an online review for a restaurant that you know. Off you go. 10 minutes, write the review. It's terrible, right? There's no scaffolding there. Students aren't prepared for this. With scaffolding, it looks like this. So much stuff comes before. All of the teaching that leads us to the writing task is feeding directly into it. This is a food and drink lesson, so we're definitely feeding directly into it. We're giving them lots of topic related speaking tasks, reading tasks, listening tasks, maybe watching tasks, and we're giving them language input that they'll use in the writing task. So grammar and vocab, lots of stuff, lots of input, lots of scaffolding. That is all there to help the students. So by the time they start their product writing lesson with activating schemata, they've had so much input. And this is how we build our students' confidence. We don't say out of the blue, write an online restaurant review. If we want them to write and we want them to write well, we build them up to it, don't we? And this is good practice. And then we can say to our students, this is a skill for life. If you know you're going to go into a meeting where you're going to have to talk about a company's products in English, go online and read about their products. Build up your knowledge before you get to the task. So scaffolding is very important. Scaffolded, step by step, little by little approach. Amazing, incredibly effective. And it means that when the student gets to the writing task, their confidence is super high. Fab. Growing confidence. Level appropriate tasks and scaffolded lessons will help build learner confidence. But here's the million-dollar question. How do we measure growth in learner confidence? How do we do that? How do students measure growth in their own confidence? Back in the day when I was doing my Delta, one of my wonderful Delta tutors said, if you could weigh your students' knowledge before they come into the classroom and then weigh their knowledge when they leave the classroom, their knowledge should weigh heavier. They should have learned something. And I think the same is absolutely true about confidence. If you could weigh your students' confidence before they come into the classroom and then weigh their confidence after the class, they should be more confident. Their confidence should be heavier. Alas, the confidence-o-meter doesn't exist. It's not that simple, is it? So how do we do it? And this is a trick that I learned from a colleague called confidence can-do statements. Very good. I love it. I've done this with students and it works really well. Confidence can-do statements. We all know about a can-do statement, don't we? A can-do statement. I can write a reply to an online post. Tick. Easy. I like to stretch them out a bit. So look, I can write a reply to an online post. And here I've put some sub-skill tasks or some sub-tasks to there. So I can do all of these things, tick, 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 tick. But this is a can-do statement. It's not a confidence can-do statement. So to make it confidence can-do, I do this. Here you go. I put those tasks there, or those elements, and next to them I put a scale. And I ask the students to circle how confident do they feel about each of these tasks. And I ask them to do this at the beginning of the lesson and hand it back to me. All right. So they circle it, they hand it back to me, and then we do a lesson. We do our writing lesson, we nicely scaffolded lesson, a product approach to writing this reply to an online post. And then once we've done that, We hand them again a set of these confidence can-do statements, and they circle it again. And then when they compare the two papers, they should see that their confidence has grown. So here you go. There's my instructions. Look, complete the statements beforehand and complete them again afterwards. By being able to put a number on their confidence and then see a new number on their confidence, it gives them a very visual and very data-based indication that their confidence is growing. So they're an excellent way for students to see how their confidence is growing. We can see that their confidence is growing, but we're good teachers, so we can see that anyway, can't we? But here, students can actually see it for themselves. And guess what? As they see that their confidence is growing, they become what? More confident. Perfect, right? So in conclusion, more successful writing lessons come from PDC, purpose, direction, and confidence. Writing with purpose. Every task has a real life purpose. By far the best way to be. Every task is appropriate to your learners and their context. Remember, we teach individuals, not anonymous faces. Make it appropriate to them. And if we do this, students always know why they're doing the task and how it will benefit them. And we empower them with purpose. With direction, use a product approach to writing. And remember that good recipe brings success. This gives them more confidence, but here we're empowering them with direction. We're telling them where they're heading. And when it comes to confidence, create a safe space. Don't judge. Give great feedback. Make your lessons level appropriate and scaffold your lessons. All such important things to do. And then build your students' confidence through these confidence can-do statements. Allow them to see their own confidence growing. Empower them with more confidence. At the end, our students have changed. I can follow a recipe. I feel more confident. I'm getting better at it. I've got this. My writing lessons are useful. Writing with purpose, writing with direction, writing with confidence. This is our recipe for writing success. Purpose, direction, confidence, PDC. Pretty darn cool, I would say, but PDC, purpose, direction, confidence. Gallery Teachers Workshop Library. So much stuff here for you to look at and get involved in. It's a wonderful website for ELT resources. You name the subject, you'll find it here, galleryteachers.com/ELT-workshops. Have a visit, take a look. You'll find something that's really useful for you there. Thank you, everybody. Students find writing difficult for many reasons. It may be that they don't write much in their own language, so writing in English is a challenge. It could be that issue that writing is a permanent record of their language, and they prefer speaking because if they make a mistake, it's quickly forgotten, whereas in writing, it's permanent and it's there all the time. It could be that their past experience has been difficult. Maybe at school they used to write and enjoy it, but their teacher was incredibly judgmental and was really judgy of them, and everything they did, they only got negative feedback. So it could be that their past experience has been that way. Maybe they're really good at speaking in English, but they've rarely had to write in English. So there are lots of reasons why our students find writing difficult. The key to success for our students when writing in English, for me, it has to be confidence. As ELT teachers, we have to empower our students with confidence, the confidence to go out and try. They have to be willing to make mistakes. They have to be ready. There has to be a safe space for them to make those mistakes in. But I think confidence is the biggest key to success. But also, there are those other two, aren't there? Giving our students purpose so they know why they're writing. That's going to make them successful, and giving them direction so they know what's expected of them, what it should look like, how many words, what language they're expected to use. These things combined with a boost in confidence, for me, purpose, direction, confidence, PDC, key to success to writing in English.